this is a movie that's about strippers, and it's about a scheme that they come up with, and I wanted to show my support to strippers and the cause, and down for the movement, you know? So this is my contribution. So Hustlers is a crime drama that apparently is based on a true story. It's based on some article that was written about some events that took place in the late 2000s to the early to mid 2000s. It centers around a group of women who work as strippers, and then they come up with this plan, this idea. The rich Wall Street clients that come to the strip club and that they know and are familiar with in their lives, they're going to get them drunk and then drug them and then take their money, and they're able to earn quite a bit of money doing this, even though what they're doing is totally illegal. This is the story of how that happened. It stars Jennifer Lopez, Constance Wu. Obviously, there's a lot of really attractive women in this movie, and I know that a lot of you people think that I'm just a horny reviewer, just constantly has to bring up how good women look and stuff like that. Guys, let me tell you, that's not who I am. That's not what I want this review to be, okay? That was my one outburst for this video. Come on, you had to know I was going to give you one. The rest of the video, I'm pretty sure it's going to mostly stick to the movie. Silly me, I went into this movie actually thinking that it was going to be about the magazine. Like, you guys remember Hustler magazine and Playboy and, you know, those magazines for, like those adult magazines back in the day. I thought this was going to be a movie about centerfolds. Granted, they do mention and reference Hustler in the movie, but this movie actually is not about that. And it's even more surprising when you realize that this actually is a true story. Let's get the obvious out of the way. You've heard a lot of other reviewers talk about it. You heard a lot of buzz about this film at the TIFF festival. Jennifer Lopez, aka J-Lo, aka Jenny from the Block, is hands down the best part about this movie. She's my favorite character. She gives the best performance. Seems kind of ham-fisted and a little bit over the top to say that J-Lo was the tits, but I feel like that fits perfectly in a movie like this, you know? J-Lo was the tits. We know what J-Lo brings to the table. She's got one of those chef kiss bodies. You know what a chef's kiss is? You see a woman walking by, a really attractive woman, and instead of you going, goddamn, or sweet Jesus, or hallelujah, or whatever you say whenever a fine woman goes by, it's one of those things where you look at her and you just can't help but go, mwah, magnifico, or you say some kind of other stupid French shit. Like all of a sudden you see a chef's kiss body, you get all cultured and Renaissance, you start speaking in tongues that you couldn't speak in before. That's what J-Lo always has been, and yeah, okay, yeah, she's attractive, but seriously, she gives a great performance in the movie. I would say that most of the other performances in the movie are good too. Constance Wu also does really strong work here. She's the main character of the movie, so you see most of the movie through her eyes. I gotta say, for the first half of this movie, I was really digging the vibe. I was really enjoying myself watching it. I mean, it was funny, it was fast-paced, you enjoyed these characters, you enjoyed the way they interacted with each other. There's a natural chemistry between all of the actresses in this movie. There's a natural way that they bounce off of each other, and I really appreciated that throughout the film. It made watching scenes with them more watchable than they would be otherwise. Some parts of this movie take place in the late 2000s. A lot of that nostalgia speaks to me because I'm from that era and I grew up listening to a lot of that music, so I appreciate that nostalgia in here. It's got a really good soundtrack, a really good selection of songs here. Underrated sound design in this movie. Like, it's hard to describe what the sound design actually is in this movie. It makes it sound like they're being recorded or they're being taped, or like it's taken from something that was taped or recorded. I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but sound design overall for the movie was surprisingly way better than I expected it to be. First half of the movie is the movie that I kind of hoped that I would be going to see. Like, it's fun, exciting, it's kind of interesting to get into the inner workings of these strippers and what they're going through, what their lives are. Unfortunately, there is a second half of the movie, and this is where I feel like most of the movie fell apart. Like, you guys know who Wile E. Coyote is, right? Wile E. Coyote, like the old Looney Tunes cartoon, the coyote that always chased the Roadrunner. You know the Roadrunner, the fucking ostrich or whatever the hell he was he was chasing. You guys remember how he would chase the Roadrunner and then the Roadrunner would fake him out and then he'd end up running on air and then he'd look down and he walked off a cliff and then he'd end up falling down the cliff and then he'd presumably die, even though he'd be back the next episode chasing the Roadrunner. Okay, that's what the second half of this movie feels like. Like, the first half feels like you're Wile E. Coyote and you're chasing that Roadrunner and it feels good to chase it. You get to the second half of the movie and you feel like you're walking off a cliff, and you feel like with every scene the quality of the movie is just like Wile E. It's just falling down, down, down. You get to the end of the movie, you're just kind of like, wow, I don't think I want to watch this again. As far as my nitpicks with the cinematography for this movie, I do feel like some of the shots that they use are kind of repetitive, visually speaking. There was an overabundance and an excessive use of hyper-stylized slow motion in some of these scenes that really don't add a lot to the movie. In fact, some of it got annoying and distracting after a while. Because of the different shot selection and the framing of certain shots in this movie, it makes me feel like some parts of this movie were directed by two different people. That's a nitpick. That's not really that big a deal. My biggest issue issue with this movie is the pacing and the way they decided to tell the story, especially in the second half of the movie. They try to depict these women as being victims, or maybe not victims, but just like they're not the bad guys. Like they're doing this stuff, these crimes to these Wall Street guys. They're taking their money, they're drugging them. They try to portray these women as the people you should root for. Unfortunately, I feel like the movie didn't really give you enough solid, concrete evidence to root for them. It didn't give you enough of a reason to give a shit beyond Jennifer Lopez stealing whatever scene she was in. It would have been great, I feel like, if the movie had actually taken you inside the minds of these women and actually showed you their perspective, showed you what they were thinking and feeling while they were carrying these crimes out. Because of the excessive use of slow motion and the montages, oh my god, there are so many montages in this film. The story was just stuck in mud whenever it tried to tell what was going on because it kept focusing on montage after montage after montage. A lot of these scenes felt repetitive, not only visually but narratively speaking, and like I said, they didn't really do a good enough job showing you how these crimes not only affected their victims, but affected them as people. It's not until the end of the movie that you get any kind of insight, and that's the end of the movie. By that time, I'm ready to go home. But in the end, Hustlers is an average movie, and I can't really rate this movie higher than average, so I'm gonna put it in the Fortress of Solitude. Those are my thoughts on Hustlers. Tell me what's your favorite Jennifer Lopez role. Go ahead and tell me what that is in the comment section down below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show. Stay tuned for more videos, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel.